morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Extravaganza with Lou and me, Mitch Bernstein. We are glad you're here. We have a very special show tonight. Looking forward to having a terrific conversation with the Philadelphia Eagles legend icon, Vince Papale, who will be with us in about 10 minutes. How you doing there, Lou?
I am wonderful. How are you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing great. There's no snow here in Wilmington, North Carolina. We beat it out of Abington, Pennsylvania, visiting my daughter and my granddaughter and my son-in-law and their family. We got out of there at on Sunday because we didn't want to be stuck for 3 days.
Yeah, don't blame you.
Yeah, we did not want to have that happen. So we're here back in Wilmington. It's not warm yet. We're a little frustrated, and what I know you're outside of Detroit. You got another month to go.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the 50s on Friday here, a little taste of it. But I did see where next week the weather's going to break up here, be in the 40s and 50s and maybe 60 by the end of next week. So right before the time change. So we'll go with that. The light, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean we do too. The good thing is that it's, oh my gosh, look, it's 5:30 and it's still light. Oh my gosh, it's 6:00. It's still light out. This is great. Yeah, and an early daylight savings time, March the 8th, I believe. So yeah, that's good.
You're exactly right.
And Lou, take me out to the ball game. Spring training has started and games have started. How about that?
I love it. That means spring is right around the corner. They're going to take a break or whatever for the World Baseball Classic coming up pretty quick. But yeah, it's nice to read some stories. You and I were talking before we came on the air, like for the Tigers anyways, it's hard for me to get into baseball 100% until the end of March. I will watch spring training because I love to listen. I'll listen to it because I love to listen to baseball on the radio. That's my thing. And I'll have that on in the background. That tells me spring's around the corner. But yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of optimism here in Detroit this year with this pitching staff that they've assembled. So, we're keeping our fingers crossed to see if it can come to fruition and, Detroit can make some noise, going into September and hopefully into late October.
Yes, as we thought was going to happen last year. You and I were, it's going to maybe a Detroit Philly World Series. That did not happen.
No, our epic collapse. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, Phillies, we got a couple of young kids, Justin Crawford, who's played pretty well already in 2 games. He's hitting the ball, played a decent outfield, a couple of long runs for catches in the outfield. And, they're running it back, but that's fine. It's okay as long as they can get their together in October, which they haven't done in 4 years. To me, it's all mental. They got to stop putting pressure on themselves when they get to that spot. And someone's got to talk to him. Hey, I'll be the shrink and get over there and say, fellas, hey, you know what? Play the game. You've been playing the game for 96. How you played 162. Play it like the way you won 96 or whatever it ends up being. Just relax and play your game.
It's it's going to be interesting to see this year. They're going into the season with expectations. They're heavily favored now to win the division. They're like we talked about, their rotation is supposed to be, it's regarded as one of the top 2 in the American League, if not all of Major League Baseball. So we'll see how they handle that. I'm always intrigued to see how teams handle success, like with the Lions. They came in with a lot of expectations that they did not meet. So this is going to be a very intriguing 2026 for them. But yeah, baseball's right around the corner. Can't wait.
Yeah, I know. As is the WBC. What are your thoughts on that?
Truth be told, I really haven't given it much thought. It's just, I don't know. It seems forced to me. I'd rather see him play in the Olympics maybe, but that's just because they never had the WBC when we were growing up, Mitch. It just,
right.
It's something new that I've got to get used to. I'll give it a try. I'll give it a chance. But, it coincides with March Madness. And for me, with the hockey that I do in March, I'll be totally engrossed in that for 2 weeks, coming up in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to really get excited for it. I'm full disclosure. I'm just, for as far as baseball goes, I'm focused on opening day, and that's really about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm not a big WBC guy. I wasn't before. Maybe I don't know if I even watched the championship game last time. I wasn't interested. Again, to me, it's an exhibition. Yeah. I get playing for your country. I get that. But it's not something for me. Speaking of playing for your country, how about those Winter Olympics final hockey games? Gold medal games in the Olympics. United States takes gold in the women's and the men's.
Boy, how ironic was it? Both overtime games, and it was heart-stopping.
It was.
There was this false sense of security in the women's game that, the USA was just blowing everybody away.
Yes.
And Canada, when it comes to their women's in hockey in general, you can't take them lightly. And I don't know if we took them lightly. I think that they were coached very well, and they came out in that game, with a different style, more defensive style. They had the USA on the ropes, and it was just a good play in overtime on that goal. And the same with the men. I honestly think it was two separate things. I thought the American team was more talented on the women's side, and I think the Canadian team is more talented on the men's side. And I thought the Canadian team outplayed the U.S. men's team. But when you got a goaltender like the Michigan native Connor Hellebuck, you're always going to be in it. And he played a heck of a game, and well-deserved win for both teams. It was great. It's just it was a good feeling.
I mean, that move that she put on, taking that puck between the defenseman's legs.
Oh my goodness!
Holy mackerel! And oh my gosh, what a move! I mean, I watched that game, and we watched the men's game. Had a feeling it was going to go to OT. They put the pressure on. They tied it up. They did what they had to do towards the end. And that 3-on-3, that is so exciting. And you got to get the face off. I mean, that's the immediate advantage. And if you can take the puck away down in your defensive zone, in your defensive zone, and streak up the ice, and you've got an advantage. That pass and that shot, boom.
Yeah, I go back and forth on the 3-on-3 for overtime. I understand why they implement it in the NHL in the regular season, because it's it's time saving, and it saves on injury potential. What I would have done in the Olympics in the preliminary rounds, I'm okay with it, but in the medal rounds, I think they should have went conventional 5-on-5 for both. But hey, both teams had to go by the same rule.
That's right.
You know what? That's Mitch. It's like everything else in sports right now, especially in baseball. All the new rules, all the variations now. It's you got to learn to get used to it, and it does not take any of the luster off of the gold medals for the men and the women. It was just a thoroughly played game. You brought up a good point about getting puck possession, and it was great to see, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
It really was. Speaking about fun to watch, I watched Invincible with my wife last night, yesterday afternoon. Totally enjoyed it. We kind of knew, obviously, what was going to happen, and it just brought back memories of the movie, and we are so privileged and honored to have a Philadelphia Eagle icon, Philadelphia sports icon, with us tonight. Our special guest, he's a cancer survivor. I believe I asked him if he still works with the NFL Alumni Association. Man who first was the only one to make it to the NFL team without playing college football. Vince Papale. Hi, Vince. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Mitch? What's going on? Captain Lou, what's up, bud?
I'm doing good, Vince.
How are you?
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, welcome to sunny Jupiter, Florida. Well, it's not sunny yet, but the sun just set. But boy, it's coming soon. So all good.
Right.
Well, Wilmington, North Carolina should be warmer. Lou in Detroit. I told them. You might have heard it. Good luck.
I heard it. Yeah, listen. This is what I'm so excited. I stepped away because you got that Phillies right over there. I've got a drawer. I might have about 20 Phillies hats, but this is the one I like the most because they had Italian American light there at the Phillies. I took my Gabrielle, my Vinny there with me, and this is the hat they gave me. I love it so much, and there's a lot of irony in it because my son Vinny is a dual citizen. And he is playing on the Italian Olympic flag football team. For the last 2 summers, he's been in Europe just kicking it. I mean, just killing it with receptions and touchdowns. And he's going to be going into the Olympic trials and in just a couple of months. So it's pretty exciting. So, hey, it's really great to be here. And Captain Lou, I know when we're off stage, when we were doing the pregame, I worked with a great weatherman in Philly for CBS WCAU. Captain Lou was his name, so I'll never forget him. So there we go. We're instant friends. And
right on.
I love where you're at, Mitch. Man, you're part of the world. The first time I went down there was with Roman Gabriel. We had a golf outing, and we were there in Carolinas and there in that neighborhood. And man, oh man, it was great. I think I found love a couple times there. So it was awesome.
Well, we're going to talk, Vince. I want to talk because I don't know how many people, I did some research and wanted to make sure people knew exactly your background, and I must tell you, we moved from the Delaware County, Garnet Valley, down here 4 years ago.
You're kidding. Well, I'm a Delco boy. Right around there's my Interboro hat right there. I got my Delco hat. I had a whole bunch of Philadelphians in for dinner at our house the other night with Janet, and and I brought my Delco hat out just to break their chops a little bit. So but I know Garnet Valley High School, and right up there, Sun Valley. When I played semi-pro football, at Sun Valley, the Aston Knights, and we played at Sun Valley High School's. Friday Night Lights, baby. Nothing better than that.
I know.
A 6-pack of Budweiser.
Pizza. I can't do that into the Garnet Valley games, but we love. Listen, my kids went to Garnet Valley. They went to the state championships in 2007, and back in our high school in New Jersey, our soccer team won the state championship.
What high school was that?
It was Livingston High School.
Okay.
In Livingston, New Jersey.
Right.
So the feeling of the community of getting to a spot where it brought people together, and that drive to Hershey, Pennsylvania for the state championships.
Oh yeah, I bet. Just the smell of going into Hershey.
Oh my, yeah, well that too, yeah. But it was awesome. But Interboro, you played basketball, football, and track, and then
baseball.
Oh, you did baseball too.
Yeah, baseball. I played baseball my junior year. I didn't get a varsity letter. I got my JV letter, And then I wasn't actually going to go out for football my senior year because I was told by the former coach that I was too small, and that's when I wanted to go out. When I wanted to go out earlier, So finally, because he was the coach, he was a Marine guy, and he just said, "You'll get your ass killed out there." So. I let him sort of control the situation. I didn't go out, and I really didn't do much. Soccer wasn't my sport because I was too aggressive, and I was getting blue and I was always getting yellow and red card. But my mentor and the guy that was my first male teacher when I was in 7th grade, and he helped me out an awful lot. because of something personally going on in our life at home. We'll talk about that. Remind me about that, because my mother was institutionalized. And this guy, if it weren't for him, I don't know where I'd be, what I'd be doing. I know I wouldn't be talking to you all right now. But he became the high school football coach, and he reached out to me and he says, "How come your name's not on the list for coming out for the team, going to training camp?" I said, "Well, I was told by the other coach that I was too small." He says, "You're never too small for me." He says, "I want you there." And I went to camp, and when you know it, I turned out he changed the whole offense to a passing offense around me. And our quarterback, Jim Haney, actually got drafted out of Westchester.
Wow. Okay.
He got drafted and picked up by Minnesota. And, we did pretty well. So I got that 1 year of high school. And then so like an idiot, after on Black Friday, we all got together, all the seniors, we all got together. We're playing in a touch game. And when you know what, I broke my right wrist. And I was going to play. I was the starting guard for the basketball team in spite of my 5'6", 5'7" size. And so I had a little bit of a break, but I wound up eventually coming in, and we got into the playoffs. So I got that. And then I was going to actually go to Westchester,
right,
the State Teachers College. And because in my ninth grade, my science teacher became the freshman coach at Westchester. And he said, "In spite of your size, now by the time my senior year, I'm a gargantuan, like 5'8" or 5'9", right?" And he was going to give me basically a free agent tryout. And Coach Corner, my football coach, inherited sort of. I was told that he really needed to be the track coach. The other track coach retired. And he asked me to come out for the team. And he said, "What would you like to do?" I said, "I love the pole vault. I never pole vaulted before, except over the back and across the creek and in the backyard over,
right,
over clotheslines. They didn't have dryers back in our day." And when you know it, I wound up a foot and a half off the world's record, which was 16 feet at that time. And I got a scholarship to, there you go, right?
Joe's, yeah.
Joe's, and there's my golden hawk thing from. And that's it. And the Luna Castro just offered, and that was Father's Day. Okay. And that was my dad was there, and,
okay,
and that was my Father's Day gift to my father, a hardworking guy at Westinghouse, and that was his gift for Father's Day, the full scholarship to St. Joe's. But at that time, it is still as a Jesuit university now, but it was not co-ed. It was all men at that particular time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was Protestant. Yeah, so so when a brother or somebody come in and they're all doing the sign of the cross, I didn't know what was going on. I've never seen this before. So anyway, I learned real fast.
I'm sure you did. So track and the pole vault, I read that. I'm thinking, okay, it does take an athlete absolutely to have to be able to be good as a pole vaulter.
Don't ask me how it happened. It just happened. I hit 14.6 the week after I graduated from high school.
And then after St. Joe's, you did play some semi-pro ball, and you were a teacher and a JV coach for the football team, right?
Well, yeah, I was. I was the head track coach at my alma mater again, going back to Interboro. And I was actually I was a linebackers coach and did a lot of defensive work, and wide receivers coach for our high school team. And I was, at that particular time, I was always playing in these rough touch bar leagues, like you saw in the movie Max's. I played for about 4 or 5 teams, believe it or not, and bar teams. Just get a free beer, So, so I did that, and but what people don't know is I was actually when I was at St. Joe's, they had me not only just pole vault. I led off the 440 relay. I ran the high hurdles, long jump, triple jump, and pole vaulted. Every dual meet and championship meet, I had 5 events. I did 5 events. And it evolved eventually to where with those 5 events, if I put another 5 in there, I would have qualified for the Olympic trials. So I eventually was training for the decathlon and tried to get into the Olympic trials with the score. If you put all my 10 to whatever scores together, it would have surpassed the Olympic level. But I couldn't get into the relay. I couldn't get into them. Nobody said, "We don't know you. You're a nobody. You're 28 years old. You're out of your mind. Why would you do this?" So anyway, when you know it, the World Football League comes.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know. We'll go with that wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So before we get there, I'm going to ask you a question about that pole vaulter, that track mentality. Did the mentality for track help you with football? Is it totally different, or is there some similarities?
No, it helped me a great deal, and I'll tell you why, Mitch, is because of the events that I had to do. I had to always have a calibrated stride. You know, when you're a high hurdler, you've got your 3 steps in between, boom,
Okay.
hurdle, 3 steps, boom, hurdle. In the pole vault, you've got to be within a couple of inches and getting that pole in there. So you've got that, and then of course with the long jump and the triple jump, you got that little 8-inch thing, the board that they called, you know, and so you always had to have that stride, and it really helped me when we were at the rookie camp. When Coach Ramil brought in the track coach from UCLA, and this was in '76, and it was right around the 4th of July, the bicentennial. And that coach says, you have a track background. He didn't know who I was, but he says, you're a track guy, aren't you? I said, why is that? He said, just your stride. And I was taught by the best. I had Marty Stern, who was he was in the Halpel games. He was my junior high school track coach. And he taught me how to run and how to have that stride and, you know, and be fluid. And, you know, I wound up popping a 4.45 40. And that's
so let's talk about that. And so before we get into that, I have to ask you, in the movie, you're playing those touch leagues.
Yeah.
I got to ask, is that how you play with cars on the sidelines?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, you know, we played in the field. We played in the field. It was right behind the bar.
Okay.
And then there were 3 posts, you know, 3 light posts with 3 lights on them on both sides, 6 altogether. And apparently either they didn't pay the electric bill or they would, you know, electricity would go out, they'd go out. So they would bring the cars up and they would use the cars and they'd light up the field. But I'll tell you where there's something really happened, and it was interesting because I don't know if you ever remember the movie Bagger Vance. And right at the end of that movie, you know, the sun was going down and now the sun was setting. So what they did, they wanted to postpone it. And somebody said, no, let's bring the cars up and shine it. And they'll put out. Well, that happened to me one time in the relay meet that we were doing when I was pole vaulting for Interboro. And the sun went down and they said, we'll pick up the pole vault tomorrow. And our coach said, why don't we just pull a few cars up onto the track and shine it into the pole vault pit? And we'll finish it up there, and that's what they did. So, you know, when I was telling the stories to the screenwriter Brad Gann, and he was great, and I was telling him those stories. He immediately that he thought about, okay, we're going to have the cars here on the sideline. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that one scene where the guy when he gets pushed into the car and he slams into the windshield. Well, that was supposed to be a breakaway, and it didn't. He wound up with 13 stitches.
Oh,
but you know, Mitch, what was really great, and I don't know if Captain Lou is still around, but what was really great is all the guys that were, other than the actors, and of course Mark Wahlberg, all the guys in there were first responders, and so those other 20 players that were there, you know, on the bench, and the mud scenes were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the first time they put the sprinklers on this dirt that had all the mud, about 1 million worms popped out.
Oh, that's great.
They had to postpone the filming of the movie for a night, and they did something else, and you know, they brought some other wormless mud in for the rest of those scenes. But they were really cool to watch film, and they really didn't start it until about 1 o'clock in the morning. So like from 1 in the morning until 4 or 5. So there was no hint of a dusk or a sunset. You know, that's when they were filming it. So it was a lot of fun just to go there every day and see what was going on with it.
That's awesome. That's really cool stuff to know. That's really I was gonna say, what are they, scared of worms? What the hell was the problem with that?
Yeah.
You get a worm in your mouth?
Oh my God, it was so slimy. It was funnier than heck. You know, you had to love it.
Well, they did that scene really well. I mean, I'm thinking they're going, how do they do that? I mean, they obviously played, and Wahlberg and they all got the mud on their faces. They probably loved that. Oh,
they loved it. And, you know, and the background music, and everybody asked me, they said, there's 2 favorite scenes. And the second, the first is, you know, another one I'll tell you about, it involves my son and daughter. because there's that scene with them in the movie. But it was the mud scenes, and the tackling and just the music in the background, and I got this, Vince, and are you okay, Vince? When I got crushed. Mark Wahlberg was so great to work. I mean, so great to work with, and he didn't want any stunt doubles. He wanted to take all the hits. He loved being.
He did that, huh?
I have a great. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. There's a great interview with me and Mark Wahlberg, and he talks about what it was like to make that transition from being an actor to an NFL player. It was pretty truthful. It was a lot of fun.
So let's go to so one of my questions was, did you really play in the dirt lots? Boom, that question is done. So when we took, it shows that Vermeil is going to have this open tryout. That didn't really happen. You just got an invite, right?
Well, I was invited by Jimmy Murray because he was a general manager, and Jimmy knew who I was. Because I was publicized a lot for what I was doing in track and field at St. Joe's. And there was a couple of headline articles, so he knew who I was. And I was playing actually in the World Football League. That's where Zonka, Kick, and Warfield. If you remember, they defected to Memphis. And the irony is my son Vinny played for the Memphis Showboats in UFL, the United States Football League, for 4 years. And he lit that leg up too. And now he's out. He's doing the Olympic thing with Italy. But I was on a list, and because I was a season ticket holder. And Jimmy knew who I was. He allowed me to change in the Eagles locker room. I go into that locker room, guys, and I'm seeing all these. I'm seeing Carmichael, and I'm seeing Bergey's locker, and I'm seeing all these guys, Billy Bradley. I mean, these guys are my idols, right? Mm-hmm. And my freaking idols. And I was like awestruck. And they just threw me number 83 just out of whatever. And then as we're going to go from there over to Municipal Field, which is where the hockey and basketball stadium is right now, Xfinity Stadium. Okay. And that's where they had the Army-Navy game. And so that was about a quarter mile. And I got so caught up in everything was going on, I got lost. I couldn't find my way out of the stadium because the locker room was down. It was submerged down there, So finally, when I got there, when I came running in and they're already stretching, and Coach Vermeil saw me and had no idea who I was. He just says, "Hey, 83, where you been?" I said, "I had some equipment issues, And he says, "I'll just start stretching." But he knew me, and he saw me stretching, and I was, I could do, because I was training with I eventually was training with Roman Gabriel, but I was, I was very athletic and very loose, and I could almost do a lateral split, and then then they popped that 40, and I popped a 4.5 on grass, and that was, as they say, the rest is history. But the cool thing is after I went through the next drills, everybody was trying to take my head off, and I was, I was either running around or I was tagging them. I would pretend it was the rough touch games, that the guys that I was going against were either drunk or high. So that was a fun thing. And after it was all over, I got back into the locker room, and nobody said anything to me. And Otho Davis, athletic trainer, he comes up and says, "Hey, they want to see you up in the upper office, and Mr. Murray wants to see you." And Mr. Murray, okay. And when I go up there, as soon as I get out of the elevator, I see all these murals of my idols: Tommy McDonald, Tommy Brookshire, Chuck Bednarik. I mean, oh my God, are you kidding me? And then I said, "Well, Mr. Murray wants to see me." He says, "Right through those doors." And there's Coach Vermeil sitting at his desk, and he says, "Hey, Vinny, hey, that was a pretty good 40 you ran out there." I said, "Yeah, what was it, Coach?" And he says, it was a 4.5. He said, "I've never seen a 4.5 like that before in a situation like that." And I went, and I went to Jimmy Murray's, and they offered me a $21,000 contract. And my first question, because I was a season ticket holder for 10 years, I said, "Can I give up my season tickets now?" He said, "You might want to hang on to them." He says, "That's right. And you made the team." So this is April. And now I have until the 4th of July before training camp starts. Mm-hmm. And so every day I was there at 9:00 when the locker room opened up, and I was training with Roman Gabriel, Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, And there's this kung fu guy, and he was the strength conditioning coach for both the Eagles and the Phillies.
Okay.
So he had me training together with those guys, and then Roman and I developed a relationship like you couldn't believe. And he was showing me how you run around in the pros as opposed to out there in the mud and all that crap. And then we had that same image, we had that same combination as we got into training camp, and he was looking my way all the time, and I did everything I could to break the line and get out there and keeping it on film. So it was pretty cool. But I was at that time I was a bartender, substitute teacher.
Right.
The World Football League folded
Right.
after a year and a half, and I was going to go back and teach and finish my master's. I was working my master's at Westchester, and then all of a sudden, the stroke of luck, I got the opportunity of a lifetime, and I was ready. I was still in shape.
Yeah.
And ready to go.
Excuse me. The boys, your group.
Yeah.
They were. Did it come to a point again different than the movie, or is it the movie showcase kind of exactly what they were doing and saying, "Hey, Vinny, this is going to be great." Did you have any questions? I mean, in the movie, Mark's, it's again they take some liberties, right? And you would be thinking. You go outside the bar and you're thinking, are you going to do this? Are you not going to do this? Or is that the movie showing that this big tryout? So did that happen that way? The guys.
Well, I sort of had a feeling. First of all, I'm a season ticket holder, and I'm watching some of these wide receivers they had other than Harold Carmichael, and they had the Fire High gang. They had Don Zimmerman, and they also had Chowa Young.
Yeah.
And but the numbers 4 and 5, and I'm seeing myself as the number 4, number 5 guy, the special teams guy, and that's what Coach Vermeer was looking for, the special teams guy. He's looking for the 5th guy, and and he found them with me. And but I was pretty confident that given the real opportunity to get it done, I would be okay. And he gave me that shot, and the first week was all the rookies and free agents and they're busting my chops because if it was a running play, I wiped them out. If it wasn't, I'd still wipe them out. I was hitting everybody and anything, and the fans loved it because training camp was at Widener.
Right.
You know, you get to Widener. That's a couple of miles from where Garden Valley, for crying out loud, and in Chester. And I grew up in Glen Olden, only 6 miles, south of there. So. Anyway, I had my students there, the kids I coached, the guys from Westinghouse, my touch football guys. Every time I caught a pass, I would sprint to the end zone, just like I did in the movie. I was busting my chops. And, when Vermeer got into him, that's when I got my cameo, by the way. I got the clap in the background for
Is that what?
And, I was cheering myself on. It took about 25 takes to get it right. I couldn't remember my lines.
That's funny.
Anyway, then here's what happened. Mitch, the veterans get in, and it's after the 4th of July now, and there's planes flying all over the place. It's a bicentennial. Coach has gone nuts because it's noisy. It was so funny. He says, "What's going on around here?" "Hey, Coach, you're in Philadelphia, the bicentennial of the world." So anyway, the veterans get in, and I backed off because I was in such awe. And Coach came over to me one time. He said, "What's your problem?" He said, "Get your head out of your butt." He says, "You're not the same. Are you intimidated by these guys?" I said, "Well, I'm not physically intimidated by them, Coach, but I'm sort of psychologically and mentally intimidated. These guys are my idols." He said, "They're your freaking idols." And he didn't even say freak. He said, "They're your freaking idols." He said, "These guys were 2-12 last year. They're your idols." He said, "Get your head out of your butt right now. I'm going to give you 2 weeks. And then, up to training camp, I'm going to give you a preseason game." And he says, if you don't show up like you did last week, he says, you're gone. Basically, that's what he told me. Well, when you know it, first preseason game against where we're going against San Diego, and we're in San Diego Stadium.
Yep.
Eagle uniform on, number 83, right? I got it somewhere around here. I got number 83 on. I hear the national anthem. I'm crying like a baby. I'm thinking, man, if my boys could show me now. And I was supposed to play the whole 4th quarter, and they didn't put me in until after the 2-minute warning. and I made 2 catches on sight adjustments, and got 2 first downs, and that gained me another week. And then that was against New England, and I got a touchdown, and then I started playing special teams. And all of a sudden, coach, he knew, he said that was the guy all along, but they pushed me really hard. And that's the harder they pushed, the harder I pushed back. And, but to give that up, and Coach Ramil, I just had a birthday, and Coach did a video, and he sent me a video, and it was,
nice.
God, I was worse than him with the team.
That's great. That's
great. Such a real, and he lives. You know where he lives. He lives in Downingtown. So yeah. He's got a 100-acre farm there.
Farm,
cool. Yeah.
When in the movie, it showed a specific time when you were doing those one-on-ones, and was your buddy? It showed before that you didn't have a roommate, and then the veterans came in, and you had a roommate.
Right.
And he came up to you, and he was telling you about watching for the guys rocking back and forth at set.
Yeah.
Was that true? Did that actually happen and helped you?
Sort of. Here's first of all, that was Denny Franks. And my poor friend, Denny Franks, we lost him a couple of years ago. And that's the book that we wrote called The Last Laugh. That was a picture that was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame after one of the hits we had. He didn't become my roommate until I made the team. And I had Larry Marshall, who was a return guy. He was a Philadelphia guy, Larry Marshall from Montgomery County. And he was my roommate doing all that. But, here's the deal. Dick Corey was our wide receivers coach, and his son loved my car. I had a little sports car, a Datsun 280Z T-top. So I cut. You ever hear that expression, if there was only a fly in the wall? Well, he became my fly in the wall. So I would allow him to use my car if he would every once in a while sort of saunter into the team meetings that they were the coaches meetings they were having and sort of see if they could figure out what they were saying about me, or maybe he says, I really like this Papale guy. And here he would get all this information and he'd come and glean it back to me the next day. So when they did the movie and, they made Dennis as my roommate as opposed to Larry, and he took that conversation I had, Brad took that conversation from that in the screenplay and put it in the screenplay as well. You got to do this, you got to do that. And then you got to do the white knuckles. And he was true, because white knuckles was the final play of the game when I made that big hit that I thought I ran in for a touchdown. They called it a muff. But I got but we did finally score, and I got invited to my first team party, and I got accepted by my teammates. It was really cool. So, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, when they make a movie about you, there's sometimes, as you say, they're going to play around a little bit with you, like that we're doing right there with that Jersey USA. My love interest in the movie, Janet, was not a Giants fan or a bartender, although in reality, her uncle did own a bar. But Max's really did exist, and I used to play for them. And, Maximilian Segich, the poor guy, he died right before I was going to honor him at up in New York. I was going to honor him up at when we had the debut of the movie, and but he passed away. But it was pretty crazy. So Janet, in order to get the branding rights of the NFL, they sort of wanted us to have her as a Giants fan. Okay. Now, the guy who did our movie, and I know you were talking about the movie, and Miracle is absolutely, there's Rocky, there's Miracle, and there's Invincible and Rudy. That's the way I sort of look at it. And Rudy's a buddy of mine. But the guys that did Miracle and Rookie were the ones that did our movie. Okay. And took the script. Another guy by the name of Ken Mock, who created America's Next Top Model, brought in and paid Brad Gann money to write a script. So, this whole thing. And then the script winds up in the hands of Mark Ciardi, who did Miracle. And he took it to Disney, and Disney on the spot, just boom, like that. Went 7 figures, and they outbid everybody else. And I became a Disney character, so to speak.
Which is great. Now, here's my question about that. How much input do you have with the script, and how much, we know the things that are true after reading about it, and the things that were not, and they kind of, again, made up. How much input do you have on what actually went on in the movie?
all the football scenes were exactly the way they were. You know, the way it was in training camp, and the Nutcracker drill, when the whatever, and all these special teams plays and everything else. I helped choreograph that with the second unit director, producer, and so I had that. They of course they had me as a bartender and a bartender and a substitute teacher, part-time bartender, but in reality they didn't go back to really what was going on. I grew up in a housing project. Right. My mother was mentally ill. My mother was a professional baseball player prior to World War II, but she wound up in an institution. And I really wish that they would have seen what I had to deal with when I was in high school and how I was being bullied, and all this stuff. And because my mother's at mental illness, I think it would have been a great story for kids to look at and say, you know what, I can relate to that. And I tried to get it in, but it was they wanted to go to a certain way, and that's fine with me. They're going to invest X amount of millions of dollars in this movie and me and the story. So I'm not complaining, but I had a lot of input in the movie and really, really appreciative. Marchiardi, as soon as Hughes hit that winning shot in the overtime game, on Sunday, I texted Marchiardi and I said, when is Miracle 2? And I want so
that's good. That's a good one.
But he's the one. So I had a lot to say. It was pretty cool. So
that's cool. Yeah.
It was fun with Janet because Janet actually was, as we talked about in the pregame, she was on the USA World Team, and Kathy Rigby and her were teammates and roommates back in the Olympic days. And Janet should have been in those Olympics, but she was injured. So she did compete in the World Games, and then eventually she injured out and wound up at Penn State and dove for Penn State and set all Penn State's diving records and qualified for the Olympic trials. Now, here's the thing: she had a choice to make. Was she going to go and go to the Olympic trials in swimming? Is she going to coach in South Africa, or she could have been out? She could have gone to Saudi Arabia and coached the Olympic teams there, or she was offered a job to start the gymnastics program at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and she chose that. And because she wanted to be with her family, because she was the oldest of 9, she wanted to be close to her family. And here she goes, and then she meets me in 1992, and they say I outkicked my coverage with her. It's pretty cool.
I think Lou and I would agree with that, with ours.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. I just had probably the best shrimp scampi you could ever possibly.
Man, I'm jealous.
Lou, I know. I'm waiting for dinner after we finish.
Come on, baby, get your butt over here from Detroit.
Right on.
You were talking about baseball, right? When I was listening in on your conversation, sort of peeping in, and so the Cardinals are right around the corner in this great town called Albacoa. And there's a little minor league stadium there, AAA stadium. And so we'll go out at night, and I'm right off the intercoastal here. We'll go out, and there's a couple of great watering holes there, and you wouldn't be surprised if there weren't a few MLB guys that were there. So
that would be fun.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And they're all great. They're all chasing the dream, and I can't imagine they're playing 162 games without hardly a break, and every pitch counts, right? Jeez.
Yeah. So Vince, let's go to real quick a couple of more things. And I want to go to current day and your thoughts about the Eagles. I just want to go back a little bit about some things that showed up in the movie.
Can I tell you my favorite scene?
Go right ahead. Hey, absolutely, yeah.
All right, right at the end of the movie, after the Cowboys game, and then Mark is driving through the streets of Philadelphia, and he sees these kids playing football in the playground.
Yes.
Little girl throws a ball out on the street, and that little boy picks up the ball. Well, that little girl is my daughter Gabriella. Is like she told me, she gave me permission to say this. She just found out that she's going to have a baby girl in August, so I'm going to be a grandfather.
Yay!
So, yeah, I mean, so she's the quarterback. She can do the best Tom Brady, man. Like you can't even imagine her at all. But she's and then Vinny, what you were talking about earlier, the football player, the athlete, he was a little boy that ran out in front of the car in the street and picked up the ball.
Cool.
And that was pretty much a true story of something that happened pre-game when Denny Franks and I were driving around with my sports car and my T-top down, and I saw a little kid that had number 83 stenciled on the back of his T-shirt, and they were having a catch. And I got out of the car, and I had sunglasses, had the pregame beer and everything on, and I said, "Can I have a catch with you?" And he says, "Yeah, why not, man?" And then I said, "Hey, throw me a couple bombs," and he threw me a couple, and he says, "If I didn't know any better, he said, I swear you were Vince Papale. Nobody runs like you." And I took my hat and my glasses off, and the kid almost had a heart attack.
I was freaked out, right?
I told him, I said, "I'm going to dedicate a hit to you," and I did at the end of the game, and that's when Denny Franks got to fumble. And they took a picture of us on the sideline, yakking it up, and that picture wound up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That's pretty cool.
That was all written because by the screenwriter with that great. That's one of my favorite, without a doubt, my favorite movie.
I was just going to ask you. That was the question I was going to ask. I said, did that kid on the playground wearing the 83 shirt really happen?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There it is. Well, eventually it was 13. Wouldn't you know it? Okay. Ironically, he wound up playing for the United States high school team against Canada.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, there were 500 guys right outside of New York City that he had a free agent tryout basically, and he wound up making that team. So it was cool. Really cool too. And he just said, "Dad, just get out of the way, man. Just get off the sidelines. He says, I can do this," and he did it. So it's just pretty cool.
So, again, last question before we go to the Eagles current. What was that like in your head? How cool? What was your reaction to seeing that 83 on some young kid?
Insanity. Still, I was just before I came. I get fan mail all the time. Go to my website vincepapale.com, and you can find out how to do it. And I just got a picture of some kids that actually they were from Thailand, and I spoke in Taipei, and I took a picture with me. I had my jersey on. I took a picture with me with them, and now they're grown up, and they just asked me if I would send them an autograph. They got the card, I mean, you can't even imagine. Or for when I go to a game, I can't sit in the stands because I'm not hounded. The people will just be coming up all the time, and I'm not going to turn anybody down from taking a picture. So when I really go to the games, watch the game, so I sort of sneak into somebody's booth. But when I sit up there and I see 83 down there, I can't help myself. Yo, 83, that guy was a bum, I'm always walking around, and a lot of times with the Eagles, prior to a home game, if I go up to Philadelphia now from here to Florida, they'll have me drive around in a golf cart and visit some of the tailgates, and the reaction that I get from the fans. And I was just in Philadelphia 3 weeks ago at the auto show that they had, and the reaction that I got from people there, I said, I sort of needed that. I miss the city of Philadelphia. I love everything down here. I mean, it's just paradise. I live on a golf course, and it's just, but there's just something about that grit, and I miss the grit. And I know that's where we got with the Eagles. We were a gritty team, and I think that's what this team showed a lot of grit earlier. But I think they lost some of it later toward the end, and for whatever reason, I don't know. But I have some feelings, and I know some people that are in the press that have told me because they're in the locker room. But I'll just sort of leave it as it is. There.
Yeah. Before. Something else you miss about Philly?
Something else I miss about Philly?
Cheesesteaks.
Well, cheesesteaks, of course. I mean, Pastor Gino's. People say which one is best. I said you determine.
Yeah.
What? Just go down there to Passyunk Avenue, and cheese with you don't just put any old American cheese or provolone cheese, man. You got to have cheese whiz. Cheese with. One is chopped up, the other one's a little bit less chopped up. And try them both. Just go hungry, and it's crazy. You'll go there 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and there'll be lines of people because the bars close at 2 o'clock, so they all go there to have either the late dinner or their early breakfast. But that's it. But I have a house in Philadelphia in the Queen Village section, which is very historic. It's some of the houses the house that we have there that we that we have was built back in the 1800s, and we rehabbed it. But it's just so cool. I mean, the city of Philadelphia is very special to me, and they treat me. I just found out from Philadelphia Magazine that I was chosen as one of the top homegrown Philadelphia athletes of all time.
Nice.
And you know what, Mitch, it's just, you know, and I have a couple of plaques here, you know, that I've gotten. There's Governor Rendell. I mean, it's just such great memories, and I love this city, and I love my Philadelphia Eagles, and you know, they came apart a little bit in the end, and maybe some adjustments in the off season. You know, some guys maybe ought to, you know, they got diarrhea of the mouth, and they just keep their mouth shut and play football. And I think that might have had an effect too.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, especially football, you know, it is the ultimate team game. I mean, you have to be in such sync to be successful week after week after week. And if you'd have some kind of breakdown amongst any one person, I would imagine it falls apart.
Yeah, you know, but they were so. I mean, they were in such a roll. Jeez, oh man, what were they? 8-1 or 9-1 at one point? Then all of a sudden, they went stagnant, and you know, and everybody wants to point a finger at the offensive coordinator. Well, to me, the finger points right back here. You know, what are you going to do to change that? You know, what are you going to do to get to that next level? You know, Dick Vermeil has a great quote, and it says, "One of the greatest wastes out there is wasted potential." Yep. There is that greatness within you that's still there. Just because now you're a professional athlete doesn't mean that you can't be better than what you are. And I think that just, you know, it just didn't happen. And I'm not pointing a finger at anybody or pointing a blame on anybody. Everybody ought to just look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe I'm the one that should have gotten and got it gone, you know. And everybody wants to. They want to look at Jalen. You can't just look at him, you know. I mean, our defense was one of the top ones there, and then all of a sudden they're giving up points that we never saw before. And Fazio, you know, he I'm sure he was a little frustrated, and it's just what it was, you know. And so next year they're going to go in, and you know, it's a whole different ball game with the NFL too, you know, with fundamentals. You know, when you look at the game sometimes when you see the tackling. You know, and the changes in special teams. Mitch and Lou, I couldn't make the team. I wouldn't even get a second look because all the things that they said we couldn't do, crack back blocks, block below the waist, doing this.
Right.
You know, the kickoff. Geez, oh man, are you kidding me? There's three things that would have knocked me out. I would never even gotten a shot.
Yeah.
So, but you know, you gotta play with it, and you know, when you can't really go full speed, you can't tackle. Right. You know, when you're in training camp, you can't do all this. You know, everything is sort of like half speed, and then you get game day. And you know, the first couple of 3 games were sloppy for us. They would have been preseason games. Right. You know, the starters, because you know, fear of injuries and the amount of money and everything else. The starters, and you know, it's pretty obvious that the game. It looks like they want to send the game out to Europe, but you know. Now the games are popping up on. Lucky to me, I can go and I can stream and find a game anywhere with the facility I have down here. But you know, for those poor people that used to just look at Fox, CBS, or NBC, or ABC, you know, and find a game. Now you got it here, you got it there, you know, and just it's an emergency.
Change a little bit.
Yeah.
What you do motivational speaking? You do motivational speaking, right?
Yes, I do.
I'm guessing that's one of your messages. One
of my messages is one of the best messages I ever got from my mentor coach, Coach George Corner, who I recently lost. And I was 30 years old, and I was going to go to training camp, and I was thinking about it. And I went to him, and I talked to him. I said, Coach, you know, you've never beat around the bush with him. I was been honest. He's like, he's like a high school coach, Dick Vermeil. You know, he tells it like it is. And he gave me this great quote: "It's happy are those who dream dreams and are willing to pay the price to make their dreams come true." I had a speech with that. And I said, but the question is, are you willing to pay the price? That's it.
Right.
Because dreams are easy, but you know, it's the hustle. It's the dedication. It's the sacrifice. It's all those other things that you've got to make in order to have that dream come true.
You got to make it work. You got to work.
That's it. So you know, I do speak, and I got some great Wahlberg stuff, and I, you know, some just stuff that we were just talking about, you know, and and get it done. So and Mark just sent me a beautiful video, for my birthday, which was pretty cool. And somebody I had just spoken to their group down in West Palm Beach here a couple of weeks ago was at an event in Las Vegas, and who the guest speaker was? Mark Wahlberg. So,
oh, is that right? That's great.
A double dose of us. But
that's great.
Mark is a dear friend, and I love him dearly. And everybody involved with the movie, Disney was great to work with, and Mark Giardi, our producer, and Ken Mock, who really took the risk, and he's the one to put out the initial money and wrote the screenplay. I owe them so much. And, my kids now, the only thing, but I wish my kids could have been there when I was playing, because it was so special.
I know. And we're going to remember that kids thing and grandparent in a minute. The last thing before we get to that. And I'm guessing your answer is, I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is to this. Do you think there will ever be someone like you to get to the NFL? No college football experience. Will there ever be someone to do that?
There's the talents out there, but I don't think the opportunity is going to get there just because of the structure, the way things are now at this particular time. And it's just, my son had a tryout, not a free agent, but he had a tryout with one of the teams, and the coach says, I want him, I want to sign him. And we thought he was going to sign an NFL contract. And here it turned out the scouts thought another way. And, they chose that wasn't the way you want to go. So he did very well in the USFL. And now he's representing Italy, and hopefully.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I don't know if you're going to have that opportunity there, but believe me, the talent's there. And Dick Vermeil didn't do it on a whim, because it had with the Redskins, and the Redskins had a free agent tryout, and they got their one guy, and that's why Dick decided to try the same thing and see if it would work, and it worked out pretty good. But that was
interesting. Very interesting. So you're going to be a grandpa.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Lou just became one.
Yeah, way to go, Lou.
And I just celebrated my granddaughter's 2-year-old birthday this past week.
Oh, how exciting. How exciting. Yeah, my baby, Gabby, lives right around the corner from me.
Great.
Here down right across the street from JT, Justin Thomas. And my son lives right, ironically, right by the art museum.
Wow.
The foot of the art museum, Rocky. That's how this whole thing got started, because of Rocky. Because somebody did a feature comparing me to Rocky back in 2002, and it wound up in the hands of Walt Disney, and here it turned out to be this movie.
Boom.
So that's what it is. Yeah.
Grandparenting, Lou will attest. I would talk to people when I was working, and you can't explain the love for this kid. It's unbelievable.
That's what I'm hearing.
Lou will attest. I just experienced it again. Thank God for FaceTime, because you could see them every freaking day, and it is just awesome. And now she's talking and just using her. It's nuts, Vince. You are going to be so ecstatic.
Well, I was ecstatic when I should have been a grandfather. When Gabby was born, I was 47. When Vinny was born, I was 50.
Wow.
And so Gabby's 32 and Vinny's 29. So you can do the math.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was the greatest gift that God ever gave me, other than Janet. And it was those three in my life, and everything is about them. And when I speak, I talk about family, and I talk about role models, and different things, and there's structure that has to be adhered to in order to be successful. Nothing's handed to you, but I'm pretty lucky guy. Well, there's full back walls, and see our house. Yeah, it's in certain sections, it's almost like being in a museum, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and family. Again, the key to that movie is relationships, working hard, persevering, and you've done that with colon cancer as a survivor, and again, support systems around you, and that's the key.
Right. Oh, that's so true. And I talk about with teamwork, surround yourself with the team that believes in you, because there's going to be so many naysayers out there. You're going to have your doubting Thomases, and a lot of it is it's too risky. It's it's never been done before. You're too old. I don't see it in your resume. but a lot of it is just insecurity and jealousy. You know, that you have the guts to try something that's just a little bit out of the box that they wouldn't even think about doing because they don't want to, as we said, pay the price to get it done. And, you know, I was lucky. Janet was lucky. She got to the highest level you could possibly get in gymnastics. And, you know, certainly me with football. And, you know, my son might wind up in the Olympics. And my daughter, Gabriella, she was a great athlete, is a great athlete. But she chose dance and cheering, and she wound up cheering high school and Bishop Eustace over by Cherry Hill, and also then went on to Syracuse and worked with the 76ers. So worked with did all the entertainment for the Sixers until until COVID. And that's when she came down here and met the man of her life, Daniel. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So my kids both got married. Vinny got married in May with Mackenzie. And Gabriella got married in June. I mean, in 6 weeks, no stress. You know, but
pure joy, my friend. Right?
Oh my God, you kidding me? We partied our asses off.
Hey, and there was definite reason to do that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So anybody wants to get a hold of me, you know, just VincePapale.com. I'm pretty easy, you know, and I'm around. And if you know you want to feel better about yourself, I'd love to be the guy to help you do that. But, you know, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And like I said, a cancer survivor. And, you know, I do a lot of charity work. Excuse me, my friend across the street, Tom Mannion, is the Mannion Foundation. He's a Gold Star father. And, you know, last night at the State of the Union, we saw 2 guys get the Medals of Honor, you know, the last survivors from World War II, you know. And I do a lot of stuff for the military too, and the homeless military vets. So, you know, you got to get involved to get into the game and volunteer, you know. And another quote is, "It's never too late to get into the game." And that's when you talk about, you know, talking about the potential stuff. I don't care whether you're 50 or 60, you were a CEO, you know, it's too, you know, you're 55, 60 years old. It's too soon to retire, man. Find something else. You give everybody that strength you have that got you to that level before and bring us up there again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff and anxiety going out there, and we need some real role models.
Absolutely.
And I'm real adamant about that.
And you are one for sure, definitely for your kids and for the people that you've spoken with. I'm sure cancer survivors and all those folks that you've been able to speak wherever you go to speak, because you have been through it.
Well, we've all been through it. You know, we all have our stories, and that's the thing. You know, but it just makes you stronger. And somebody, you know, think about it all the time. You know, you don't really gain a lot when you win, but you gain more when you lose. Yeah. And you know, and I think about it, and you know, and I've lost a few, but I'm pretty lucky right now. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah. Well, talk about lucky, Lou. We have been so lucky to have Vince with us. Vince, this has been terrific. I mean, I can't explain how excited I was to have you come on and develop a relationship, to be able to say, you know, you are an inspiration. And besides the movie, the person that you are right here. So thank you so much for being here.
Like I say, I'm blessed, and I try to remain humble. And, you know, people that just, you know, and when they call me a legend, it sort of like freaks me out a little bit. But I have to tell you, it's pretty cool.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
It really is cool. You know, and my memories at St. Joe's and Dave Van Dusen and Billy Blackie and all the guys, you know, come on, give us another one. Give us another one, you know. And then to go from there to the NFL, or just to teach, you know, we have just at our close. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary of our first championship that I coached. And it was in the Philadelphia area, right on the river. And oh my God, and Al did the whole thing, and it was so great to be with all these guys that I coached back then. You know, there were skinny little kids with hair all over the place, and their grandfathers, great grandfathers, and it's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's awesome. Awesome stuff. Vince, stay healthy. You look great.
Thank you.
All right. And the hawk will never die, baby. The
hawk will never die. And
let's go Phillies. We're gonna have my Phillies hat right here. Let's go.
Phillies and Eagles. That's right.
And of course our birds, man. We gotta love our birds. Go birds.
That's exactly right.
All right, baby.
All right. Thank you so much, Vince.
All right. See you, Captain Lou. All right. See you.
We'll see you. Peace.
All right. Appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you. Some great stories.
Yes, for sure.
Just terrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. So excited
Yes.
As George Costanza would say when he got excited on Seinfeld, I'm busting, Jerry. I'm busting. That's how I feel now.
Very nice. Yeah.
So those are, and we thank those of you who were on watching. I mean, I hope you got some good stories with him. And hey, he's a legend and an icon in Philadelphia.
Definitely is.
Sure. All right, Lewis.
All right.
We'll send out those replays later. We'll post some stuff.
We'll do. Definitely. And
I'm gonna see. Hold on one second. Are you around next week?
Next week I am. And then I'm off for 2 weeks.
Okay. So we've got. I want to promote this here. Ba-dum, ba-da-boom, boom, boom. Where is the person? It's Ken Davidoff, an author. He wrote a book, 100. I'm not quoting it properly. 101 lessons learned from the dugout. It's for kids and for parents and for adults, and learning about lessons in life.
Sounds good.
That you can learn through baseball.
Sounds good.
All righty.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for welcoming us into your homes, on your computers, your laptops, however you watch us. You're on the Extravaganza. Mitch, be safe this weekend.
Will do.
You know, and spring training's here. All right.
Love it.
Until next Wednesday, for Mitch Bernstein, yours truly, Captain Lou, saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long, everybody.
Keep your eye on the ball.
That too.
That too. See y'all. Thank you all for being